That's a good Danish. Welcome to Melcher's Movie Madness, DVD edition. I, as always, am Keith Melcher, along with
Ryan Brewer.
And today, for this special edition of Melcher's Movie Madness, since there's nothing playing in the theaters right now either one of us wants to see, we decided to pick just a couple random DVDs and review them. So, what did we pick first? Seriously, what did we pick first?
Blu-Ray.
Fuck! I haven't...
Go ahead.
I haven't seen this movie since we saw it in the theater in 2009, I think that's when it came out. And I believe my one-sentence review of the movie afterwards was, fuck this movie?
Yes.
So, once again, fuck this movie! There's so many things wrong that they got wrong with Wolverine.
Enlighten us.
Okay, alright. The first 20 minutes or so, not that bad. Not that
Quite
bad.
good, actually.
The opening sequence was actually pretty close to the origin miniseries from the comic books, which revealed Wolverine's origin there. Then once they get into him and Sabretooth fighting through the different wars and all that, and when he teams up with Team X, still pretty good. And then when he leaves Team X, goes and starts to have a normal life in a logging camp, still, I'm with you, Wolverine. You're okay. Yeah. You're still the Wolverine I know and love. Sabretooth shows up, they get in a big fight. Okay, that's fine. It's decent. And then, once he decides to go through the Weapon X program, get adamantium injected into him, they should have just called it shit! Because after that, the movie becomes a big, steaming pile of shit! Let's backtrack just a little bit.
Okay.
Alright, when he's part of Team X, with him, Sabretooth, the guy who had the mutant power to shoot guns... The guy...
That guy was an amazing mutant.
Oh my god, I wish I had that mutant power.
Who was he supposed to be, anyway? Was he actually supposed to be based on anybody, or was he...
Yeah, he was based off Maverick from the comic book. But I think Maverick had powers in the comic books.
I don't remember.
Well, he could do more than shoot guns. That's the point.
Well, I mean, he could jump.
Jump and shoot guns. Oh, man. Jesus.
He could jump really
Give him a wonderful singing voice, and he's a triple threat. And then there was the guy from the Black Eyed Peas. He's a part of the team, too.
Oh, he was
Yeah.
I thought I read
It wasn't Fergie. It wasn't the black Asian guy, Blasian. It was Will.i.am. Will.i.am, yes, was in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Because that's what comic book fans want. They want the Black Eyed Peas in the comic book film.
Well, they probably wouldn't have minded Fergie so much.
Well, no. Moving on. And then there was the other guy who could, turn light bulbs on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Lost and Lord of the Rings.
I know his name.
Yeah, but nobody cares about him, so we're moving on. But then there was the one saving grace, Ryan Reynolds, who was in the movie for all of 10 minutes.
Yes.
And when he was on screen, he was awesome.
Dominic Monaghan.
That's the guy, yeah. But Ryan Reynolds, he's playing Deadpool, a fan favorite from the comic books, as always. And when he's actually on screen as Ryan Reynolds, he's awesome. And then he disappears for a while. And then we'll get back to him later on in the film. But that is the only good part about the movie, is the opening. But as soon as he gets the adamantium in him, the movie just turns into a fucking travesty. There's the part where he first pops his claws, and they're fucking CGI pieces of shit.
Yeah.
And all the other X-Men movies, you could tell there were actual claws physical claws that he had in his hands. This, they just were straight up CG, and they looked like shit.
Yeah.
And there's the comedy bit where he slices the bathroom sink and he destroys the radiator.
Because that's what we all wanted to see. It was
Yeah.
Wolverine, one of the biggest badasses in comic book history.
Wacky slapstick.
Accidentally tearing apart the bathroom in the old folks' home.
And I actually, in the new Amazing Spider-Man coming out, I saw a clip of that, where he's in the bathroom, where he discovers he can stick to stuff. And once again, he destroys his sink and squeezes his toothpaste container too hard and sprays toothpaste all over the mirror. So apparently that's the trend now in superhero movies, bathroom hijinks. When fucking Iron Man 3 comes out, it's going to seem to take place all in the bathroom.
Yes.
Just 2 hours in the bathroom.
One giant bathroom stall.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing but Tony Stark just tearing the crap out of everything.
Yep. Literally.
Although, to be fair, in the first Iron Man, Tony Stark does absolutely decimate his house.
True. But we didn't see what he did in the bathroom.
No, we didn't see what he did in the bathroom.
That must have been in the extended director's cut. It's too extreme for cinemas.
Yes. Okay, well, I gotta go back a little bit too, because I love Lee Schreiber as Sabretooth. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah. He had more of a character than Tyler Mane did in the first X-Men.
Right. Yeah. And he was just, I thought, all around played better.
Yeah.
Tyler Mane's version of Sabretooth didn't.
I think he had 2 lines in the whole movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, and he growled a couple times.
Yeah.
Growled and then just beat shit up, and that was pretty
right.
But in this one, I do like that Sabretooth has a personality.
Yeah, and he was definitely menacing and
well, and I think Lee Schreiber does a really good job too of just pulling off a bad guy. He's a good villain.
Yeah.
And, I do have to agree that the effects were atrocious. Probably for being an X-Men movie and supposedly part of the whole saga. It just seems to me like it almost seems to me like the producers in the studio looked back at X-Men 3 and saw how crappy it was and said, well, I don't think we have any faith in this series anymore.
Yeah.
So we're not going to put as much into it.
Right. Well, and it's well documented, the guy who runs Fox, he's hated this series from the beginning. When Bryan Singer did the original X-Men, he cut their production time in half, cut their effects budget in half. He wanted the movie to fail, basically.
Really?
And when it proved to be a surprise hit, then he let Bryan Singer do whatever he wanted with X-Men 2, which is considered probably the best in the series, up to that point anyway. Then, when Bryan Singer decided to do Superman Lives instead of X-Men 3, Rothman just wanted to fuck Singer, basically, so he wanted to get X-Men in theaters before Superman. That's why they brought in Brett fucking Ratner to do it. And we all know how that turned out.
Yeah. I do agree the first half of the movie is also... It is the best part of the movie. Up until he gets his adamantium claws, then the movie's, it's tolerable. It's tolerable, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
The characters aren't bad.
No.
My thing is that so this is my copy of X-Men Origins Wolverine, and I bought it on a whim, even despite the fact that I had started off absolutely hating this movie, and I went back and I watched it again for a second time, and the second time through, it was a little more tolerable. I mean, the second half still sucks compared to the first half. I'm not saying that it's oh my god, this is great. I'm just saying that when you watch it the second time, it's a little easier to swallow. It still has its issues.
Yeah.
It still has its continuity issues. In particular with the magic bullet.
We'll get to that in a second. Magic bullet. I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, but I'm good. I'm gonna power through this.
But other than that, I mean, it still had some good moments to it. I still thought that the inclusion of Gambit was kind of a real horrible shoe-in.
Well, there's tons of characters in this movie that have no business being in this movie.
No.
Gambit, Cyclops, I think...
Cyclops especially has no right being in this movie.
Yeah, and that brings up another continuity error. What time period is this movie supposed to take place in?
Yeah, that's something that is my other major technical issue with the second half of the movie is that up until the halfway point of the movie, everything's making sense, everything's, in terms of continuity, everything's kind of flowing well.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, all this weird shit just starts happening.
Yeah.
And there's no real explanation for it.
Uh-huh.
Namely, the fact that Cyclops just shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah. And he's a teenager in it, too.
He's a teenager. They find, Cyclops, and they bring him to
the Weapon X
facility.
People, yeah.
And now he's a prisoner there. I mean, granted, they played it off so that he had absolutely no idea that Logan was the one that saved his life.
Right.
But, I mean, you would think that given the time period, because I pictured it sort of taking place during, the 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s
yeah,
is what
late 70s,
I got out
early
of it.
80s.
Yeah.
Which, I kind of, in the X-Men movies, I actually pictured Cyclops being probably closer to, I don't know, 30s.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
which given the time period would not make sense.
Well,
a teenager in the 70s.
And if in all the other X-Men movies, if you notice, they always say it takes place in the not too distant future.
Right.
So
Right.
So Cyclops should technically, when Wolverine meets him in the first X-Men movie, he should be like 40-something.
Right.
Or even close to 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, yeah, so they completely fucked that up.
Right.
By even including him in there. And then, towards the end, Wolverine rescues a whole bunch of other mutants. I think one of them was supposed to be Emma Frost.
Yes.
Turns into diamond form. Again, not necessary to be in the movie. And then, they brought back Deadpool. A version of Deadpool. Now I'm going to go into a bit of a geek rant here. In the comic books, Deadpool is known as the Merc with a mouth. Because he's always talking, always having these wacky jokes, non sequiturs, and whatnot. He's funny. That's one of the things that makes him popular. That he's a funny character. So, in the movie, they have the brilliant idea to take his fucking mouth away. So he can't even fucking talk anymore. And then, they give him all these other powers from Cyclops and other characters. He has swords coming out of his arms. He can teleport now all of a sudden. And it wasn't Deadpool. And it isn't even Ryan Reynolds anymore. It just had a fucking stuntman play him at the end when he came back.
I agree. I mean, he's I love Ryan Reynolds as an actor. He's one of my favorite comedic actors.
Right.
But I was also kind of angry that they didn't. I mean, first of all, taking away his mouth, like you said, that's one of his best features.
And then
it's what drives the character,
right?
And then Ryan Reynolds on top of it. You basically there was really no reason to even hire Ryan Reynolds if you weren't even going to keep him for the rest of the movie because you would just hired anybody else.
Right.
Put into the part.
Yeah.
Well, and that was actually my biggest beef right from the very beginning too. Was that it seemed to me like it's like, you know, how much of Wolverine's origin can we just cram into one movie,
right?
As opposed to just letting the story breathe and evolve over time. I mean, like I wouldn't have minded seeing an X-Men Origins Wolverine trilogy.
Right. I mean,
you know?
they felt the need that they had to tie it in with the other existing X-Men movies, and in the comic books, Wolverine spent years. Decades before he even met up with the X-Men.
Oh, yeah.
So there's tons of stories they could have mined from that. But no, they had to bring in the other X-Men.
The magic bullet.
They shoot him in the head with a magic bullet, and that's how he forgets everything. A magic bullet! Which, at one point they say, this is the only thing that can kill him. And not 20 minutes later they say, this won't do anything for him, but maybe it'll make him forget everything.
Yes. I love how they were able to predict that too. Oh yeah, it'll totally wipe out his memory.
Yeah.
We were wrong about the killing thing, but, you know, we can totally give him amnesia.
Yeah. And I'm disappointed that they only made one magic bullet. Because I wish they would have shot me in the head with it after I saw this horrible fucking movie so I could have forgotten it. Fuck this movie.
Crappy throw.
We did better in the first take.
Yes, so the final verdict on X-Men Origins Wolverine. My take, if you're not into, you know, the comic books and you're not like a die-hard Wolverine fan, if you haven't seen the other X-Men movies, I think it's worth a rental. I do think it's worth picking up and watching once, because it can be entertaining, it is enjoyable. You know, if you're the kind of person that notices things in movies, and you'll probably immediately notice the continuity and technical issues, but it can still be an enjoyable film. As long as you're not into Wolverine, as long as you're not into the comic books, I still, you know, it's still way down here on the respect scale for me. So
Go see X-Men First Class instead.
Yes.
Wolverine's in it for 2 minutes, and it's better than the entire runtime of X-Men Origins Wolverine. He tells Magneto and Professor X to go fuck themselves. It's awesome. It's a great scene.
Yes.
Best scene in the movie.
Exactly. Although still a good movie.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
First Class is way better than...
Yeah.
I would almost say even better than some of the other X-Men movies.
I'd rank it right up there with X-Men 2. I think those two are the best. So, in conclusion, all I have to say is Wolverine has got to be one of the worst prequels ever made.
Well, that...
Really? What's our next DVD we're reviewing? Fuck! Really?
Yep.
God.
The Star Wars Complete Saga Blu-ray edition. Lots of fancy, look-like artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Know what I said in my last review? You can polish a turd, but it's still a turd.
Indeed.
You can put all the digital enhancements you want in this turd, and oh my god. And when I say that, I don't mean the entire saga. I'm mostly talking about the prequels. Because the original trilogy I don't have a problem with. And when I say original trilogy, I mean the original unfucked with versions. The ones where Han shoots first, Slice Noodles is a fucking puppet, and at the end of Return of the Jedi, when the ghost of Anakin Skywalker shows up, it's an old man, not fuckface McGillicuddy!
And by fuckface McGillicuddy, we mean Hayden Christensen.
Who else could I be talking about?
Okay. I'm going to start off with the prequel trilogy, of course, because that's the negative side of things. But first, before I go into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the Blu-rays themselves. A lot of people complained they had some issues with the picture quality. They said it wasn't that great. Honestly, I have watched these things a dozen times, and I think it looks friggin' awesome. As long as you have a nice HD TV, Blu-ray player, these look good. Overall picture quality. It does not, however, excuse the crap that the prequel trilogy turned out to be. But, everything looks good. Colors pop. Everything's nice and, R2's head's blue, and you really, really tell that it's blue. The stars are really colorful, and, they're bright. Everything looks nice. It looks polished, it looks clean. A lot of people did complain about the lightsabers, because they said that they redid the lightsabers for the Blu-rays. And I do have to agree, I think they do kind of look a little bad at times. It's something you just have to see to understand, but, overall, the movie still looks good. Movies still look good. In terms of special features, there are 3 bonus discs with special features on them, all of which are quite interesting. They're quite good.
Yeah, one of them just George Lucas going, I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry. Is that one of them?
No, I think they omitted that.
Oh, then I ain't going to buy that one then.
But I will say, it does contain the deleted scenes from the original trilogy that, up to this point, other than the special edition stuff that was added back in, it has a lot of the scenes that never made it in the original version, including Luke's trip to Anchorhead, where you get to meet Biggs for the first time, whom in the original movies we didn't meet until way later. So that's pretty cool. The fact that you can actually get that is on here. But now, let's talk prequel trilogy. I will start off by saying that I still hate these movies. I still loathe them.
Any self-respecting film buff Star Wars fan should
Yes.
hate them.
And, I will say that they made a couple of changes in the Blu-ray version, namely to Episode 1. They took out the puppet Yoda from the original release and replaced it with the CG Yoda from Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith.
CG Yoda does look better than
He does look much better than the puppet. I still think that they kind of fucked up Yoda's character in the prequel trilogy, but we'll get into that later.
Right.
The one thing I was very disappointed that they didn't change is with all of their CGI prowess, they were unable to remove Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker from the movie.
Yeah.
That annoying little shit is still there.
Right.
When I first saw these movies, I was just like everybody else. I was pissed off, at them for being bad Star Wars movies. But now, having seen them so many times now, I've come to the conclusion that I no longer hate them for being bad Star Wars movies. I just hate them for being bad movies in general, because they really don't. They're just horribly made. The story is horribly put together.
It's a meandering plot that doesn't go anywhere. It's like all these different plot threads going on at once. You can't focus on one character, so you don't give a shit about any of them.
No, exactly. And none of the characters have any depth to them.
No.
There's no emotional depth to these characters. They're very two-dimensional.
Right. They're caricatures, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst part about that is the fact that there are so many really, really good actors in this movie, Jake Lloyd aside.
You got your Ewan McGregor's, you got your Liam Neeson's,
Yeah.
Natalie Portman, Oscar-winning actress Natalie Portman, which came years after she did these movies, but still.
Yeah, but even though, still, it's just, these are all really great performers, and the performance that they gave in the prequel trilogy, it was probably worse than like a 6th grade play.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just seemed very forced, very, and I don't know if that's necessarily the fault of the actors. I do think that George Lucas is just horrible with actors. Period.
He's just a horrible director.
Yes, and not necessarily a great writer either.
No.
And the dialogue, I imagine, probably made things a lot harder for the actors.
Yes. And then when he got somebody like Jake Lloyd reciting lines like, "This is so wizard! Yippee!"
Greatest villain ever.
It's not even bad that he starts off as just a horrible little abortion on film. He graduates into a whiny little bitch in the sequels. And in episode 3, the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan. Greatest battle. We've been waiting the entire trilogy to see this battle, and results in a jumping contest. With Anakin going, "Bet you I can jump higher than you! Bet you can't! I'm gonna do it anyway! Oh, my limbs!" Fucking jumping contest!
Yes. That is essentially what it all amounts to.
Yes.
And I mean, it would have been so much cooler if, you know, it had been just like a complete heat of the moment. Because it like stops the action.
Uh-huh.
You know, like we have this really awesome, badass sword fight going on, and then all of a sudden the sword fight just stops.
Yeah.
And goes into this little lull where they go onto their bed. I'm a little bit I can jump higher. And then, you know, that. But it would have been so much cooler if they would have just been fighting, you know, like the swords just thrashing, like coming together, just on and on, going and going and going and going, and then just, you know, Obi-Wan pulls some fancy shit.
Yeah.
Bam, bam, bam.
And the thing
Darth
is,
Vader.
in the other movies, they showed all the Jedis doing these jumping.
Yes.
Amazing jumps.
Yes. Jedis are jumping throughout the entire prequel trilogy,
But
and they make it look like it's an art, and all of a sudden, and that's what the whole movie amounts to, is that Anakin can't jump.
Right. Hey, it was the original white man can't jump.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
White Jedi can't jump.
White Jedi can't jump. I'll bet you Samuel L. Jackson wouldn't have.
Oh, he'd be jumping like a motherfucker.
Exactly. It would have been Obi-Wan on the bottom of that.
That's right.
Becoming Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But no, we couldn't do that. You know, and I will admit that the prequel trilogy movies, they do get progressively better, but they're still all bad.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's not like they get to the point where they're like, oh, well, the third one's just great. They just get to the point where the third one's like, eh.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like, well, it wasn't so bad. That was basically the reaction.
Yeah,
and that was a positive reaction.
like episode 1 started off as shit.
Uh-huh.
And then episode 2 upgraded to
A wet fart.
a wet fart. And then episode 2 upgraded to episode 3 was just a little gas.
Yeah, it was the Taco Bell you ate, which
Yes.
gave you the wet fart, which led to this shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it was still good at the time.
Right.
But still looking back at it, it's...
No. Compared to the original trilogy, it's not a pimple on the ass of the original trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, Ian McDermott, probably the best actor in the entire film.
Right.
The entire trilogy.
Yeah.
From episode 1 on.
Right. Yeah.
Even as just good old-fashioned, you know, Chancellor Palpatine.
Right. I mean, there's moments in episode 3 where he's talking to Anakin, and you can see what's going on between his eyes. He's manipulating him. I mean, that's a decent performance.
Yeah, well, Ian McDermott, he actually adds depth to the character.
Right,
And that's something that none of the other actors were able to do or pull off. Which amazes me. I mean, still amazes me to this day that some of those actors especially could not find that kind of emotional depth.
Right.
So, and then just story-wise, it's very generic, it's very predictable, I guess.
And you have all these characters who don't mean anything to the overall legacy of Star Wars.
Yeah, and then pointless.
Qui-Gon Jinn. Who cares? Darth Maul. Who gives a fuck?
Even though he was the best part of episode 1.
Yeah, all 5 minutes he's on screen. Yeah.
So, prequel trilogy, basically bottom line, it still sucks. Always probably going to suck. I don't think any amount of CGI or special editions is ever going to fix that.
Jake Lloyd's burning hell.
Yes. Yes. Now I want to get to the original trilogy.
The original trilogy.
It's as original as it's going to get. And I think people are just going to have to deal with that. Here's my thing. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this because it used to be that I was in the same boat with most of the other fans when it came to these movies and the special editions and how, you know, I was just as upset as everybody else was back then. You know, I did not like the idea that things were being changed and all this stuff is being added. But the more I watch these movies, the more it starts to kind of dawn on me that other than maybe just like a small handful of some of the changes that were made, most of them actually make sense. They may not necessarily have been handled very well, like it might not be the best CGI that they've ever done, but they actually do kind of add to the overall effect of the film. I mean, it's all fluff. I mean, it's nothing that was necessary, so to speak.
Right.
But it still adds to the experience. It's still cool.
Yeah.
You know, and it's still cool to have it in there. Like the infamous Jabba the Hutt scene that they added into episode 1. Yeah, it was horrible CGI, but in the end, it was still cool to see that.
Right.
It was a scene that was originally filmed, but it was excluded from the movie.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the technology at the time to do what they wanted to. And, you know, I mean, and I look at that now, especially that particular scene. I look at Jabba the Hutt, yeah, it's crappy CGI, but could you imagine what the scene would actually have been like had they actually tried to put Jabba in there? I mean, could you see that big puppet slug and how they're going to possibly move it?
Well, he probably wouldn't move. He would just be a stationary thing.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been just a stationary thing, and it probably would have looked like crap.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like the scene was cut from the movie because George Lucas just didn't like it. It was cut it because you just couldn't do it.
True.
You couldn't make the scene work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, some of the other stuff really is more like fluff, kind of like the extended intro coming into Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Which I like. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
You do get to see a much grander scope of things. You do get to see more of the town, or the city, I guess, would be. And you do get a better sense that there's more going on in Mos Eisley than just Luke and Obi-Wan trying to find Rye.
Yeah, it created an actual living city.
Yeah, I mean, there was more atmosphere there. There's just more going on in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that, again, was something that added to the experience rather than detracted from it.
Yeah.
The Bantha scene that they added in with the stormtroopers, you know, searching for him. Again, not necessary, but it still added something to it.
Right.
It's still horrible CGI, but it still wasn't bad.
Right.
You know.
No, bad would be a example. Would be the whole dance song number he added to Return of the Jedi.
The song and dance number to Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
That was one of the small things that was added that I definitely could have done without.
Yeah.
That, and of course, adding Anakin Skywalker,
Hayden
Christensen to the end of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Which made no sense whatsoever.
Because when he dies, he turns into a young man again? Then why the fuck is Obi-Wan still old? Why is Yoda still old? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and his justification for that was that because Anakin was a good guy when he was young, but a bad guy when he was old, and so when he redeems himself, you know, his immortal ghost reverts back to the way he was when he was younger. Which makes, I mean, that may be his justification for it, but it's not like the movie stops to explain that.
No, it's just fucking lame. It's just him changing his movie because he can.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And, I mean, to me, if he was going to add Hayden Christensen into the end of Return of the Jedi, he should have just went the whole way with it and added the younger Yoda and the younger Obi-Wan.
Right.
And just added all three of them rather than just him.
Yeah, that or when he unmasked Vader at the end, why didn't they just get Hayden Christensen? Just film a new scene with Hayden Christensen made up, burned up Vader.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have wanted to see that.
No.
That would have pissed people off even more, I think.
How dare you even suggest it?
I'm sorry. Turn in my Star Wars badge and my gun.
You should. And for the most part, I still think that most of the additions were fine. I don't think there was really too much to it that was added that hurt the movies in any way, shape, or form.
Vader's no.
You know, it really wasn't that bad. I thought it was going to be horrible too when I first, like, the Blu-ray editions, ladies and gentlemen, they added a line to Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi just before he decides to save Luke Skywalker's life from the Emperor. Instead of just being the silent look, he says no, and then no,
which he just borrowed from Episode 3.
Yes,
it was the exact same no.
Exactly. But I mean, upon hearing it, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I still think the scene
it works better without it, but it's not glaring.
Yeah,
really, but
it's and even with the line, it still works. It's just. I really wish you would have just taken the time to get James Earl Jones to come in and record a whole new no. Maybe even put that in the prequel trilogy instead.
Or just not do it at all.
No!
Turn Vader into fucking Frankenstein.
Yes, exactly.
But the final fuck you to the fans I thought he put in at the very end of Jedi when everybody's celebrating, you hear a little Jar Jar going, "Lisa free!" Come on!
Yeah, that one was definitely unnecessary.
Considering Jar Jar is the reason they went to war in the first place, the son of a bitch.
Yeah, I know.
Palpatine, all of his special powers.
It's all his fault.
Fuck you, Jar Jar.
First of all, I get really, really angry when I hear fans get mad about the original trilogy and the changes that he makes. Because, like I said, most of the changes really aren't that bad. They actually do add something to the movies as opposed to detracting something from them. But more importantly than anything else, for all of the people out there that are so pissed off about the changes that have been made to these movies, the original movie still exists. Okay, the pre-special edition is still out there. It's either, if you don't, it's on VHS. I don't know if probably on Betamax.
I'm sure there's probably a Laserdisc.
Yeah, I know there's a Laserdisc out there. And even then, there was the DVD releases that came with the pre-special edition versions.
Right.
Which I still own. And having said that, that's kind of the point. If you don't own the original trilogy already, you're really not a real fan. So I don't really think you have any right to say, fuck you, George Lucas, for all of these changes that you're making to my movie. It's also not your movie, and second of all, like I said, if you don't own a copy in some way, shape, or form of those movies, then you can go and fuck yourself.
And if you want to email Ryan Brewer right now, we'll put his email address right here.
Yes.
We'll CG that shit just like Lucas.
Yes,
so.
exactly. It'll say go fuck yourself, StarWarsFan.com.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious. I'm serious. I don't understand why anybody seems to feel like there's any reason to have a beef with it. I mean, if maybe someday. I mean, did anybody ever stop to think too that maybe if they stopped bitching long enough about it, that maybe George Lucas would have a change of heart?
See, at this point, I think he's just doing this changes out of spite because people keep bitching at him.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And you're like, fuck. I mean, how do you know he's not just doing it to fuck with you because you guys keep bitching about it?
Yeah.
I would. That's me. I'm gonna do it with every movie I ever make. I'm gonna call it a special edition. I'm gonna add shit just to fuck with you. Just to fuck. I'm gonna do it to this video too. Just watch. You fucking CG Jar Jar standing right there. Well, we so free.
Please don't do that.
Bottom line, Star Wars Blu-ray, really not that bad. If you could just pull the prequel trilogy out, toss them. The original trilogy, still good. Bonus discs, still good. Lots of good features on there. Not the best features, but again, I still own my previous DVD versions of both the prequel and the original trilogy.
And I'm sure you all do too, so...
Yes. If you don't, you're a fucking idiot. And you have no right to say anything about these movies. None whatsoever. So there you go. Star Wars Blu-ray edition. Would I suggest buying this? Absolutely. There's some cool stuff on here. Well, we're seeing, especially the deleted scenes. Really good deleted stuff.
Yeah.
There you have it.
All right. That's Melcher's Movie Madness for this month. I don't know when we're doing another one.
Someday.
Hopefully we have a cameraman then.
Cameraman.
Peace out.